Chapter 2. The shift was subtle. So subtle that, to anyone else, it might not have existed at all. But Orm felt it, in the way Ling no longer avoided her entirely, but also didn't linger. In the way her gaze would pause for half a second too long before snapping away. In the way every interaction now felt deliberate, measured, like Ling was thinking before every word, and somehow, that was worse. "Okay, we're not thinking about it," Orm muttered to herself as she adjusted the straps of Leo's tiny backpack. "You're thinking about it," Lena said immediately from the doorway. Orm jumped. "Why do you move so quietly? Why do you talk to yourself so loudly?" "That's not the point." "It is the point." Orm narrowed her eyes. "You're 8. And I'm right." Orm opened her mouth to argue, then stopped, because arguing would only prove Lena right. "Shoes," Orm said instead, clapping her hands once. "Both of you, now. We are leaving in 5 minutes." Leo ran past her like a blur. "I'm already wearing shoes." Orm looked down. "Those are on the wrong feet." Leo looked down too. A pause. "It's a style." "It's not a style." "It could be." Lena walked past them calmly, already fully ready. "He tried to invent that yesterday." "I'm innovative," Leo protested. "You're confused." Orm pressed her lips together, trying not to laugh. This part was easy. Grounding. Normal. No complicated feelings. No intense eye contact. No Ling. "Right," she said, nodding to herself. "We're doing great." "Doing what?" Leo asked. "Nothing." "Everything." "Where are you taking them?" Orm froze. She hadn't heard Ling approach. Of course she hadn't. Ling didn't approach. She appeared, like a very elegant, very intimidating ghost. Orm turned quickly. "Park," she said, maybe a little too fast. "Just for a bit. Fresh air, movement, sunlight, healthy things." Ling's gaze rested on her, steady, unreadable. "Be back before noon." Orm blinked. Why did that feel like approval? "Okay." A pause. Ling didn't move. Orm didn't move either. And suddenly, they were just standing there. Again. Too close. Too aware. Leo broke the moment by grabbing Orm's hand. "Let's go." "Yes," Orm said quickly. "Let's go. We're going." She moved. Fast. Too fast. Lena followed, but not before glancing back at Ling. Watching. Observing. Ling noticed. Of course she did. The park was louder today. More people, more children, more everything. Which should have made it easier for Orm to relax. It didn't, because her brain, her very unhelpful brain, kept replaying, "You were jealous." "Nope," Orm muttered, sitting down on the bench. "We are not revisiting that." "We are revisiting that," Lena said, sitting beside her. Orm closed her eyes briefly. "I need you to be on my side." "I am on your side." "Then stop analyzing me." "I'm analyzing the situation." "You're 8. And you like Ling." "I do not." "Orm!" Leo yelled from across the playground. "Look!" Orm turned just in time to see him attempt something that definitely required more coordination than he possessed. Oh no. He jumped. He landed. He did not fall. Orm exhaled. "Okay, good. Progress." "Minimal," Lena said. "I'll take it." A shadow fell over them. Orm looked up and blinked. "Oh." The woman standing in front of them smiled, confident, warm, put together in a way that felt effortless. "I was hoping I'd run into you again," she said. Orm straightened slightly. "Hi." Lena looked between them, slowly, carefully. "You know her," Lena said. "We met yesterday," Orm replied. "Anong." the woman said again, offering her hand, this time more formally. Orm shook it. Orm. I know, Anong said, her smile widening just a little. Ling talks about you. Orm's brain stopped. She does? Lena leaned in slightly, interested, very interested. Briefly, Anong added casually, but still. Orm felt something warm and dangerous spark in her chest. Oh, she said again, because apparently that was all she could say around this woman. Anong glanced toward Leo. He's energetic. That's one word for it, Orm said. I like you, Anong said suddenly. Orm blinked. Thank you? You're different. From... Anong didn't answer that directly. Instead, she tilted her head slightly. Have you had lunch? Orm hesitated. Not yet. Then let me fix that, Anong said easily. There's a cafe just across the street. Kid-friendly, good food, my treat. Orm blinked again. Oh, you don't have to. I want to. Simple, confident, no room to argue. Orm hesitated. This felt normal, friendly, harmless, right? Lena nudged her. Say yes. Why are you like this? Say yes. Orm sighed. Okay. Anong smiled. Great. And just like that, a very small, very innocent decision began a much bigger problem. Ling was not supposed to be there. She knew that. Logically, objectively. She had left the house for a reason. Work, meetings, responsibilities, things that required her attention, things she was very good at. And yet, she found herself stepping out of the car near the park. 5 minutes, she muttered to herself, just to check, just to ensure everything was fine. That was all. Nothing more. Nothing unnecessary. Nothing. Her steps slowed. Across the street, through the glass windows of a small cafe, she saw them. Orm, the children, and Anong. Ling stopped, completely still. Inside, the scene was easy, relaxed. Leo was talking too loudly. Lena was watching everything like she always did. Orm was smiling. Of course she was smiling. And Anong was leaning slightly forward, engaged, interested, focused, on Orm. Ling's jaw tightened, just slightly, barely noticeable, except she noticed. Her fingers curled once at her side, then relaxed, controlled, measured, rational. This meant nothing. It was a conversation, a casual interaction, a coincidence. And yet, her gaze didn't move, not when Anong laughed, not when Orm laughed back, not when Leo interrupted them both, not when Lena looked between the two women and smirked. Ling exhaled slowly. Irrelevant. The word was quiet, deliberate, a decision. She turned, walked away, got back into the car, closed the door. Office, she said. But for the first time in a long time, her mind wasn't entirely on work. Back at the cafe, Orm had no idea she had just been perceived, judged, analyzed, and silently reacted to. So, Anong said, stirring her coffee, how long are you planning to stay? Orm hesitated. I'm not sure. That sounds bad, Orm added quickly. It sounds temporary, Anong corrected. Is that bad? Anong looked at her, really looked, then smiled. That depends, she said, on what you want. Orm blinked. I don't think it's that simple. It never is. A pause. Then, and Ling? Anong asked lightly. Orm choked on her drink. Lena didn't even pretend not to listen. What about her? Anong's smile turned just a little sharper. Do you like working for her? Orm's brain. Abort mission. Yes, she said quickly. Very professional, very organized, very CEO. CEO is not an adjective. It is now, Anong laughed. Orm relaxed, just a little. She's difficult, Anong said casually. Orm blinked. She's not that bad. Interesting. Very interesting. Anong leaned back slightly. And you're defending her. I'm not defending her, I'm just clarifying. Mm-hmm. Lena sipped her juice, watching, collecting data. Careful, Anong said lightly. She's not easy to deal with. Orm smiled softly. I know. And somehow, that answer carried more meaning than it should have. Anong noticed. Of course she did. And for the first time, she looked genuinely entertained. The sky darkened without warning. One moment, sunlight, warmth, easy laughter. The next, wind, sharp, sudden, and then thunder. Leo froze mid-sentence. What was that? Orm looked up. Oh, the clouds had rolled in fast, too fast. Lena closed her book. That's not good. No, Orm agreed. That's really not good. Rain started falling, hard, immediate, relentless. People scrambled, children shouted, chairs scraped. Leo grabbed Orm's arm. I don't like this. It's okay, she said quickly, pulling him closer. We're okay. But the rain didn't slow. It got worse. And the cafe was suddenly very full, very crowded, very trapped. Orm looked toward the door, then back at the kids, then at Anong. Okay, she said, forcing a smile. Change of plans. Outside, thunder cracked again, and somewhere across the city, Ling looked up from her desk, her expression tightening, for no reason she could logically explain. The storm didn't pass. It settled, heavy, loud, unrelenting. Rain slammed against the cafe windows in thick sheets, blurring the outside world into nothing but gray movement and distorted light. Thunder followed too closely behind each flash of lightning, sharp enough to make the glass tremble. Leo flinched, hard. Orm noticed immediately. Hey, it's okay, she said softly, pulling him closer so his side pressed against hers. It's just a storm. I don't like it, he mumbled, gripping her sleeve. I know. Another crack of thunder. He buried his face into her arm. Orm didn't hesitate. She shifted slightly, wrapping an arm around him, her hand coming up to gently cradle the back of his head. It's okay, she repeated, softer this time. I've got you. Lena watched, quiet, observant, always observing. You can't hear it as much if you talk, Orm added gently. So, we should talk. Leo peeked up slightly. About what? Orm smiled. Important things. Like what? Like, what the best dinosaur is. Leo immediately sat up a little. T-Rex. Wrong. What? Lena didn't even look up. It's a triceratops. No, and just like that. The fear loosened. Not gone, but softer, manageable. Anong leaned back in her chair, watching the entire interaction with quiet interest. The way Orm didn't panic, the way she adjusted, the way she made it feel like nothing was wrong, even when it clearly was. You're good at this, she said. Orm glanced up briefly. At what? This. She gestured slightly. The chaos, the emotions, the unexpected. Orm smiled faintly. I think I just don't like seeing them scared. Simple, honest, and for some reason. That answer lingered. Anong studied her for a moment longer than before. Then, her phone buzzed. She checked it, paused, then looked back up. Well, she said lightly, this just got more interesting. Orm blinked. That's not a reassuring sentence. Anong turned the phone slightly. Ling? Orm's heart dropped. What? She asked where I am. A beat. And? Orm asked carefully. Anong smiled. I told her. You told her what? That I'm at a cafe. A pause. Then, with you. Orm choked. Why would you, Anong just sipped her coffee. Casual, unbothered. I'm curious. About what? Anong's eyes flicked up, sharp, amused. About what happens next. Orm stared at her. You're dangerous. I've been told. Thunder cracked again, louder this time. Leo flinched back into Orm instantly. She held him without thinking, but her mind, Her very unhelpful mind was no longer on the storm. It was on one thing: Ling, knowing, Ling, coming. "Oh no," Orm whispered. Lena looked at her. "You're doing it again." "I'm not doing anything." "You're spiraling." "I am not spiraling." "You said 'oh no' out loud." "That's not evidence. It's emotional evidence." Orm pressed her lips together. Hard, because this was bad. Not because anything had actually happened, but because of what it felt like. Because Ling seeing her here, with Anong, laughing, talking, looking comfortable, after everything that had already happened, after the jealousy, after the misunderstanding, after— "Okay," Orm said quietly, mostly to herself. "We're fine. This is fine. Nothing is happening." Lena gave her a look. "You're not convincing." "I'm convincing enough." "You're not." "I'm trying." Ling arrived faster than she should have, faster than made sense, faster than was reasonable, but the moment Anong's message had come through, "I'm at a cafe, with Orm," something in her had shifted. Not panic, not urgency, just a decision. And Ling Cyrillac always acted on decisions. The car barely stopped before she stepped out. Rain hit immediately. Cold, sharp, unforgiving. She didn't hesitate, didn't pause, didn't reconsider. By the time she pushed the cafe door open, her presence hit the room before her voice ever could. Orm felt it, instantly. Her spine straightened before she even turned. "Oh no," she whispered again. Lena followed her gaze, then smiled, slow, knowing. Leo looked up. "Ling!" He jumped off the chair and ran straight toward her. Ling caught him automatically. Of course she did. Her movements were precise, even now, even slightly damp from the rain. "Careful," she said, steadying him. "I don't like the storm," he said immediately. Ling's expression softened, barely. "I know." She set him down. Then, her gaze lifted and landed directly on Orm. Everything stilled, just for a second. The noise, the people, the storm outside, all of it faded. Because that look, that exact look, was new, focused, sharp, and something else, something Orm couldn't quite name, but definitely felt. "You're here," Orm said. Brilliant, incredible, no notes. Ling's gaze didn't waver. "Yes." A pause. Then, "You're not." Orm blinked. What?" "You were supposed to be back before noon." Oh no. Time existed. Orm had forgotten that. There was a storm," she said quickly, gesturing vaguely toward the literal chaos outside. "And Leo, he doesn't like thunder, and it got really heavy really fast, so we just stayed inside, here." Ling's eyes flicked to Leo, then back to Orm, assessing, calculating. "You made the correct decision." Orm exhaled. "Oh, okay, good." But the tension didn't leave, because Ling's attention shifted, slowly, deliberately, to Anong. "Interesting choice of company," Ling said. Calm, neutral, careful. Anong smiled like she'd been waiting for that exact line. "I could say the same." A beat, then, "I like her," Anong added. Orm nearly choked again. Ling didn't react, not visibly, but her gaze returned to Orm, just for a second, longer than necessary. "I see." 3 words, completely neutral, and yet something underneath them wasn't. Orm felt it, didn't understand it, but felt it. Lena definitely noticed. She leaned slightly toward Orm. Now she's doing it. "Doing what?" Orm whispered. "Being weird." "She's always weird. Not like this." Orm risked another glance. Ling had moved closer now, not sitting. Of course not. She stood, composed, controlled, but present, very present. "You should return," Ling said. "The storm will worsen." "I figured," Orm said quickly. "We were just waiting for it to calm down a bit, but it won't," Ling cut in. A pause. Then, "I'll take you." Orm blinked. "You don't have to." "I wasn't asking." "Oh, right. Of course she wasn't." Anong watched the exchange with open amusement. "This is fun," she said lightly. "No, it's not." Orm muttered. It is for me. I believe that. Ling ignored both of them. Her focus remained on Orm. Gather your things. Simple, direct, final. Orm stood automatically, because of course she did. Okay, Leo, shoes, Lena, your book. Don't forget your… I have it, Lena said calmly. I always have it. Right, of course you do. Everything felt too fast, too close, too charged, and Ling was right there, watching, not helping, just watching, as if observing how Orm moved under pressure, as if assessing her again, and that did something very inconvenient to Orm's heartbeat. The car ride was quiet, too quiet. The storm outside was loud enough to fill the silence, but inside, everything felt contained, compressed. Leo sat pressed against Orm again, calmer now but still clinging slightly. Lena sat on the other side, watching the rain. And in the front, Ling, driving, focused, silent. Orm stared straight ahead, very aware of everything, of Ling's hands on the wheel, of the occasional glance in the rearview mirror, of the fact that every time Ling looked back, her eyes landed on Orm, not the kids, Orm. So, Orm said suddenly, because she couldn't take it anymore. That was, unexpected. No response. Great, fantastic, wonderful. I mean, the storm, she added quickly. Not you. I mean, you two, but not in a bad way, just unexpected in a neutral context. Orm, she froze. Yes? Ling's voice was calm, controlled, but closer now, sharper. Stop talking. A beat. Okay? Silence again. Lena leaned slightly toward her. You're making it worse. I know. You're panicking. I'm not panicking. You said unexpected in a neutral context. That's fair. Another flash of lightning, another roll of thunder. Leo shifted closer again. Ling noticed. Of course she did. Her gaze flicked to the mirror, then stayed. Does he always react like this? She asked. Orm blinked. To storms? Yes. Sometimes, Orm said softly. It depends on how loud it is. Ling nodded once, processing. Then, without another word, she reached over and turned the radio on. Low, soft, music, not loud enough to overwhelm, just enough to fill the space, to soften the storm. Leo's grip loosened, just slightly. Orm noticed, and something in her chest shifted, because that was care, quiet, controlled, but intentional. She looked up. Their eyes met, through the mirror, just for a second, and this time, Ling didn't look away first. The house felt different when they returned, not quiet, not empty, but charged. The storm followed them in, not physically, but in the way the air seemed heavier, thicker, like something unresolved had settled into the walls. Orm barely had time to take off her shoes before Leo was tugging at her sleeve again. Stay with me, he said. His voice was smaller now. The storm hadn't passed. It had just followed him inside. I'm right here, Orm said softly, crouching slightly so she was at his level. I'm not going anywhere. He hesitated, then nodded, satisfied, but he didn't let go. Ling watched the entire interaction from a few steps away, silent, still, observing, always observing. Lena, Ling said, her voice calm but firm. Dry your hair. You'll get sick. I'm fine, Lena replied automatically. You're wet. I've been wet before. Ling didn't react to the attitude, but her gaze lingered. Half a second longer than necessary. Now. Lena sighed dramatically, but she went. Because that was the thing about Ling. You could argue, you could resist, but in the end, you listened. Orm stood slowly, Leo still attached to her side. I'll make something warm, she said. That usually helps when it's like this. Ling's eyes flicked to her. You don't need to. I want to. The words came out gently, not defensive, not hesitant. Just certain. Ling paused, just briefly, then nodded once. Fine. It wasn't permission, not exactly, but it wasn't rejection either, and somehow that mattered. The kitchen didn't stay spotless this time. It couldn't. Not with the storm still echoing outside, not with Leo hovering close, occasionally jumping at louder thunder, not with Orm moving faster than usual, pulling ingredients, lighting the stove, filling the space with warmth again. This time, she didn't apologize for the mess. She didn't hesitate. She just did what felt right. Ling stood in the doorway, watching, again. The pattern was becoming familiar, Orm in motion, the children orbiting around her, the house shifting, responding, living, and Ling, still, controlled, but less distant than before. "You're staring." Ling didn't look away. "No, I'm observing." Lena leaned against the counter, towel around her shoulders, completely unimpressed. "It's the same thing." "It isn't." "It is." A pause. Then, "You like her cooking?" Ling's gaze shifted slightly. "That is irrelevant." "She hasn't even finished yet." Ling didn't respond, which was an answer. Orm tried very hard not to react. She failed a little, just a little, because something warm spread through her chest. Uninvited, unhelpful, very inconvenient. "Hot chocolate?" she offered, glancing back over her shoulder. Leo immediately perked up. "Yes." Lena nodded. "Yes." Ling hesitated. "Barely." "Fine." Orm smiled, soft, small, but real, and for a moment, Ling's gaze lingered on that smile longer than it should have. They ended up in the living room. Storm still loud, lights slightly dimmed, warm mugs in hand. Leo tucked into Orm's side again, clutching his cup carefully. Lena sat nearby, more relaxed than usual. And Ling. Ling sat across from them, not working, not on her phone. Just there, present, which was new, very new, too new. Orm became painfully aware of it, every time she lifted her cup, every time she shifted slightly, every time Leo leaned more into her. Every time Ling looked. Because she was looking. Not constantly, not obviously, but enough. Enough for Orm to notice. Enough for Lena to definitely notice. "So," Lena said casually, sipping her drink, "Anung likes you." Orm choked. Leo blinked. "Who?" "The lady from the cafe," Lena clarified. "Oh," Leo said. "She was nice." "She was very nice," Lena said pointedly. Orm coughed. "Okay, wow, this is not a discussion we're having right now." Ling's grip on her mug tightened, just slightly. "Anung is like that," she said, neutral, controlled, careful. Orm glanced at her. "Like what?" "Friendly." A beat, then, "Overly so." Lena raised an eyebrow. Orm blinked. "Oh." Something about that tone, that specific tone, felt different, not annoyed. Not quite, but not neutral either. Not really. "Did you have fun?" Ling asked suddenly. Orm froze. "At the cafe?" "Yes." Simple question, simple answer. Should have been easy. "It was nice," Orm said carefully. "The kids enjoyed it." "That's not what I asked." Oh no. Orm's brain stalled. Lena leaned forward slightly. Invested. Very invested. "It was fine," Orm said quickly. Ling's gaze held, steady, searching. "Fine." Not a question, not quite a statement, just repeating it, testing it, and Orm, for reasons she couldn't explain, felt like she had answered wrong. Leo broke the tension by spilling a little hot chocolate on himself. "Oops." Orm immediately shifted. "Okay, careful? Let's clean that up." She set her mug down quickly, grabbing a cloth, focusing on something safe, something simple, something that didn't involve whatever that had just been. Ling watched her, again, that same look, that same something, and this time, it didn't go away. Later that night, the storm hadn't stopped. It had softened, but not enough, not completely. Orm was in the hallway when it happened. She hadn't meant to be there, hadn't meant to. Pause, but voices carried, soft, Low. Ling. On the phone. You shouldn't have done that. Anong. Even through the speaker. Recognizable. Oh, come on. Anong said lightly. It was harmless. It was unnecessary. It was interesting. A pause. Then, you like her? Orm froze. Her breath caught. Her heart stopped. For just a second. No, Ling said. Immediate. Controlled. Too fast. Anong hummed. Sure. This is not a discussion. It is when you show up in the middle of your workday because I'm having coffee with your nanny. Silence. Heavy. Ling didn't respond immediately, and that was enough. Anong laughed softly. There it is. There is nothing, Ling said, but her voice was quieter now, less certain. Relax, Anong continued. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, it's been a while since you've reacted to someone like that. Another pause. Longer this time. She is good with the children, Ling said finally. Deflection. Clear. Intentional. Anong didn't push. Not directly. Of course she is, she said lightly, but that's not why you looked like that. No response. And somehow, that silence said everything. Orm stepped back. Quiet. Careful. Heart racing. Because she shouldn't have heard that. She definitely shouldn't have heard that. But now? She had. And everything felt different. Ling ended the call. Slowly. Deliberately. Her expression unreadable. But her mind was not quiet. Not controlled. Not contained. Because Anong's words lingered. Annoyingly. Persistently. You like her. Ling exhaled slowly. No. The word was automatic, reflexive, a defense, but, for the first time, it didn't feel entirely true, and that was a problem. Orm lay in bed that night, wide awake, again. This is bad, she whispered, worse than before, because now it wasn't just her. It couldn't be just her, right? No, she said quickly. No, we are not doing this. Because that would mean, she buried her face in her pillow. Hard. This is professional, she mumbled. This is a job. This is normal. Everything is normal. Silence. Then, this is not normal. Across the hall, Ling stood by her window again. Storm fading, city quiet. Mind not. For the first time in a long time, control felt unstable, and Ling Sirilac did not like that feeling, not at all.